Hello again, it's Robert Fitton with the final video talking about the big collection I got with the Craigslist listing that turned out to be an indoor storage unit, 8:30 at night, right as the sun went down, in an indoor storage unit that was just me and the person selling the records, so not the safest transaction in the world, but thankfully it turned out to be the real deal, and I got a nice collection of records, like I said in the other videos, mostly mint, near mint, a few VG pluses. I'm not sure what the story was behind them, but it all ended up being about $5 a piece, and I got some real treasures. I did the first two videos were the late 80s hard rock heavy metal, and these are the late 80s ones that were not, heavy metal or whatever. So the replacements, for instance. Got replacements on vinyl now. This is my first replacements record. I had a few of their CDs, including this one, but glad to have this on a record, and sounds great. Tim is the name of it. It came out in '85. I don't know which number this is. This is the first one for like Sire Records though, after they left Twin Tone and went major label. This is also the last one with Bob Stinson. This was right around the time of their Saturday Night Live appearance. They were all completely wasted. They got banned off Saturday Night Live. I think somebody said fuck or something like that. I know Bob Stinson fell back and put his legs up and showed off his gooch to everybody, so that's probably had something to do with him never being on Saturday Night Live again. But rest in peace, Bob Stinson and his gooch. But yeah, great album from the Replacements. I'm not really familiar with, I know I had a friend that was like crazy about the Replacements. Had all of them, Hootenanny and Mom Forgot to Take Out Trash, Let It Be. I always kind of was turned off by the Let It Be album name, because like that's a Beatles album. But anyway, Tim is a great album. Very just kind of just bare bones, not really bar rock, because I don't want it to sound like it's blues rock, but it's that kind of bar rock for the college bar crowd, where they just go and this band's just rocking, and there's a lot of different styles on here, but it all sounds real. It all just sounds like some guys with some going through real life. And Left of the Dial is on here. That's one we played in college, just like every college radio station played that. I'm sure we were no exception with Left of the Dial. Kiss Me on the Bus was another one we played all the time. On the Bus. And Waitress in the Sky. Hey, let's not be disrespecting the airline workers. They keep you, they keep you cool while you're, they keep other people cool, more importantly, when you're, thousands of feet in the air. Bastards of Young was the one that was actually on MTV where the video is just the speaker. I thought that would come on, and I'm like, who is this? You got to give it up for a band that's just going to make a video of a speaker, and then at the end they kick the speaker and the video ends. But yeah, this is just, crank this up. A lot of heartfelt stuff in here. The Replacements, Tim. From '85, great album. Glad to have this on vinyl. This was my actual introduction to the Replacements. Don't Tell a Soul from 1989. There's an album between these two, and these sound completely different. Pleased to Meet Me is the album between these two. I want to get that. I don't have that on CD or anything, but it'd be a nice bridge to find out that hear the sound between these two, because this sounds completely different. I know when this came out, a lot of people did not like this. Thought it was way too polished sounding for the Replacements, a little too slick, and it is got a polish to it, but it's just a completely different album, or different sound. It's almost like a different band, really. It's just a different feel on this album. I still like it though, but yeah, this is more of almost like the alt country kind of feel to it. It's a little louder than a lot of the alt country stuff, especially stuff that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. This is more like the Uncle Tupelo crowd, and that's more like the rowdy, the Tim album's more like the rowdy, get drunk and throw a bottle against the wall crowd. But it's still a decent album. I still like it, and got a lot of great tracks on here. I mentioned too in my other videos that I don't know what the story is behind these records, because a lot of them appear to have never been played or even touched. They're in such great condition, but they're not promotional, so a lot of times you get somebody selling a collection like that, they're all promotional items that were sent to radio stations and somebody just pulled them all out and sold them. This is the only one that has an actual promo stamp on it, so at least this one is a promotional record, and it has this nice little paper in here where they're being promoted there, and it tells you all about the album and how you can promote it to your listening audience. got to go to the inner sleeve for the track listing. But I noticed it's just got a few different tracks, sounds on here. Side 1 is more of that alt country sound I was talking about. Side 2, the very first song, Anything's Better Than Here, kind of harkens back to their earlier kind of rowdy, kind of, you know, more lively type sound, a little more aggressive. But then they get into I'll Be You, which I think they tried to make a radio single. I Won't goes as far as to almost sound like Bryan Adams singing, so that was a little bit different. And then Rock and Roll Goes, it kind of slows down a little bit, so a little bit of a different thing on there. But still, like both albums, they're just completely different from each other. And okay, it might not be his absolute best album, but it's still kind of cool to have this one from David Bowie from 1987, Never Let Me Down. I did not have this on any format. I heard the album a couple of times over the years ago or whatever. It's okay. It's not horrible. I mean, I know this appears on a lot of lists as David Bowie's worst album. I remember researching that when I did this video called The Best of the Worst, where I was trying to rank all these artists' supposed worst albums, and I was looking on the internet to see what everybody thought different bands' worst albums were, different artists. And David Bowie, there seemed to be 3. It was like either this one, Tonight, or Hours. People will say that's his worst album. And this one is... it's not horrible. I mean, it's not up to David Bowie standards. That's the thing. This is not Aladdin Sane. This is not Ziggy Stardust. This is not Hunky Dory, or this is not Let's Dance. You know, this is just very energetic, very bright, very upbeat 80s music. And David Bowie's the singer. That's kind of what this sounds like. This is better than a lot of albums from 1987, though. I will say that. But, you know, you expect a little more out of David Bowie. I get that. But this is not like something I would turn off in absolute disgust or something like that. A lot of the songs, like I said, they're just upbeat. They're 80s kind of thing. I mean, I know he had the plastic soul. He kind of described his music as plastic soul, some of his 70s stuff. This one, the plastic is turned way up and not so much soul. So a lot of plastic on this one, but it is 1987, so... what was the Never Let Me Down, of course, one of the singles. The other one was Day In, Day Out. That's what starts the album. Not my favorite song on here. There are better songs than that. The very last song, Bang Bang, is kind of catchy, you know, in that kind of goofy 80s kind of way. The really bad one on here is Shining Star. That's the one you stay away from. Horrible. But Glass Spider, you know, named his whole tour after that song that kicks off side 2. Kind of a weird, you know, he gives this whole like narration of the Glass Spider and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not horrible. I will say that. It's a decent it's a decent 80s album. Again, it just happens to be David Bowie as the vocalist. That's pretty much the best way I can describe this. Time Will Crawl, decent song on here. A lot of these sound like they belong in like an 80s movie montage. Like they show... You know, like Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts goes on the shopping spree in the malls, and this music from this album would be playing. And yes, I don't even say it. I know that Pretty Woman's actually from 1990. You get the point, though. It's that kind of 80s movie, cheerful, upbeat montage where something is happening to move one part of the plot to the other part of the plot. This would be the kind of music you would expect in that. Again, it's okay. It's okay. It's not absolutely mind-numbingly terrible. And I really don't know what I would say my least favorite David Bowie album is, but I don't think it would be that one. This one is Keith Richards, and had this on CD, you know, since the 80s, and glad to finally have this on vinyl. The record of this sounds great. I think, I'm not one of those people that are like, all vinyl sounds better than CDs, period. If you've watched my channel, you know I do a lot of defense of CDs. I don't think CDs are like terrible and just a waste and throw all your CDs away and stuff like that. But I will say this record, I mean, it sounds better than the CD. Just saying. Then again, though, that's a 1988 CD. It sounds kind of flat. But this just snaps. I mean, the percussion on this especially just jumps right out. Take It So Hard was a single off this. This basically sounds like, you know, a Rolling Stones album with just the Keith Richards songs. Whereas Mick Jagger's solo albums don't really sound a lot like Rolling Stones albums a lot of the times. I mean, he's definitely got his own pop thing going on. This sounds more in the vein of the Rolling Stones. I would rather hear this than Bridges to Babylon. It's and Keith Richards, you know, his solo stuff, and he as a person kind of has this reputation for, well, he just does the straight ahead rock roll. You know, he's not all about the funky stuff that Mick Jagger puts to the Rolling Stones and that kind of stuff. There's funky stuff on here. I mean, it's not all just you know, just straight ahead rock and roll. I mean, there's a little bit of diversity in here, and you know, it's a great Keith Richards album. It's great to hear him just do his solo thing, get a chance to do his own thing, and spread it out all over an album. I know he's got a couple of albums that also follow this. Got those on CD too. Maybe I'll get the vinyl of those, although those would be really hard to find on vinyl. Main Offender, I think that's like 92. That's not going to be an easy one to catch, especially for $5 for Craigslist in a collection. But yeah, there's great stuff on here. You know, the titles like Struggle and Whip It Up and Make No Mistake and Big Enough, you know, some of them kind of sound like afterthoughts, but you know, you're not going to get lyrical, you know, mind-blowing stuff on here, but it's just a great rock and roll album, basically, and that's exactly what you would expect from Keith Richards. Locked Away is a great ballad. That's one of the highlights on here. How I Wish is probably one of the lower points on here. I Could Have Stood You Up is pretty good as well. Keith Richards, man. Keith. Steve Earle. Copperhead Road. Another one from 1988. Had this on CD for a while, you know, probably since the early 90s. This is his magnum opus. This is the big one from him, where he really, you know, those artists that kind of come out and sound really kind of mainstream, like they're doing right into the groove like he did when he first came out. And then they put out a release that just really is like, no, this is me. This is who I am. This is when he kind of revealed himself. Steve Earle's Copperhead Road, the title track kicks it off. I mean, it's a country album that starts off with bagpipes. So you know this is not your run-of-the-mill country album from 1988. I mean, this is not the Judds. This is not Randy Travis. This is not the Forrester Sisters. This is Steve Earle. And I'm surprised he got on country radio with a couple of these, because this is kind of more of in a hard rock vein. Not hard rock, but hard country rock vein. Some of this stuff is harder than, like, say, John Mellencamp, and a lot of his stuff, you know, his stuff was on rock radio, wasn't on country radio. So it's weird how some things are considered country and they go right to country radio, and some of the things are not. But this is pretty much great all the way through. I mean, every song, especially side one, every song telling a story. You know, you got Copperhead Road about the grandpa and the dad doing moonshine. So the son goes off to Vietnam, comes back and decides to take the moonshine area and just make that a marijuana farm. That's going on. Snake Oil's great as well. Back to the Wall. Johnny Come Lately. All those are great. Side two is more of like relationship type songs. It's a little more mainstream sounding with the, you know, the love, you know, Once You Love is great though. It's a great way of, you know, once you love, you're busted. Once you start caring for somebody, that's it. You know, you might as well just hang it up. You know, it doesn't put a very good spin on love, but that's what you'd expect from Steve Earle. So really like this. It's a 4.5, 5-star album to me. I haven't heard a lot of his later stuff. I'm more from I Feel All Right was one that I used to play a lot, but need to get a couple more of his in my collection. But yeah, the only one that I'm not big on is that Devil's Right Hand. Because, you know, every one of these, like, he's not really outlaw country, but every one of those guys that kind of fall into that spectrum, they always got to have that, I picked up a gun and I'm shooting somebody and I'm off to prison. Ever since Johnny Cash had the Folsom Prison Blues, everybody wants to do a song like that or 6 songs like that. And it's just like, you know, oh, it's real country. He tells it how it is, from the heart, real country. Picked up a gun, shot somebody, and went to prison. It's like, yeah, but no, he didn't. He didn't go to prison for shooting somebody. That's not real. That's just made up as anything. But, you know, somehow they are always like, that's authentic, real country. I'm like, oh. Robert, do you have to ruin everything? Yeah, I kind of have to ruin everything. But, yeah, Steve Earle, Copperhead Road, an absolutely terrific album, whether you call it rock or whether you call it country, doesn't matter. And so continuing the final video of the tetralogy, as it were, something completely different, and that would be the Surf Punks, also from 1988 with, oh no, not them again. And I wasn't really familiar with the Surf Punks. I think I remember that name. Like maybe they had a video on MTV. I don't remember what it was. I vaguely remember the name Surf Punks, but wow, that is an awful album cover. That's pretty bad. And the back here is just a lot of chaos in the studio. But yeah, that's If I saw this in a store, that would not make me be like, oh my God, I got to pick that up. They really try here with the thong thing going on here. It's not, it's, yeah, none of this. Okay. But again, it was in a collection, so I thought I'd check it out. It's goofy. It's the late 80s. Goofy. Some of it kind of sounds like Weird Al Yankovic originals. Some of it kind of sounds like Devo if they took silly pills or something. I don't. It's just, and there's a lot of surfer kind of lingo, like gnarly and spazzing out and whatever. A lot of it is guys talking in like a choral reverb in the studio, like it's just echoing off, you know, like that big talking. They're just talking. Again, doing the surfer lingo. They do a really decent cover of Ballroom Blitz, though, showing off the musical skills. I know there's multiple musicians on here that are not credited, but these two guys actually, this guy right here is Dennis Dragon, and he is the brother of Daryl Dragon, who was the captain in Captain and Tennille. This guy is, I forget his name. What's his name? His name is Drew Steele, and he is the stepson of Gavin MacLeod, who was the captain of the Love Boat. So you have the stepson of the captain of the Love Boat, the brother of the captain and Tennille, and they're surf punks. And just silliness. If it kind of goes along that same, like if this was a movie, it would be one of those Traumaville movies, like Surf Nazis Must Die or something. It's that kind of just goofy silliness. There's the country tinged love song on here, dedicated to a girl named Chlorine. If that's your idea of good humor, then you're gonna love this. You know, songs like, and then the cops came, and I did blah, 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 and then the cops came, I blah, 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 and then the cops came. It's like, so it's nice for some nostalgia, even though I don't remember it. Kind of, I don't know if that's nostalgia. I guess that's not really nostalgia, but it still takes me back to the late 80s. I don't know if I'll listen to this again, but it was fun. It was all right. Nothing earth-shattering. Nothing hilarious. Just kind of goofy. Kind of silly, as the cover would suggest there, surf punks. And so one of the more serious ones, at least one of the more fully realized ones over the surf punks, is the XTC and Skylarking from 1986. This is actually the later version that has the song Dear God as part of the track listing, and glad it does. That's a song that I've heard for years and years and years. It's probably, I would say, one of their biggest songs in the U.S., definitely. It had a lot of controversy, of course, and all of that, but MTV used to play it all the time. And that's where I would hear a lot of these later 80s kind of alternative, if you will, type of, songs, MTV 120 Minutes and things like that on there, because, unless you had a friend or something that had, the tape or something like that, you wouldn't hear these songs because radio wouldn't play them, college radio, but I didn't get into college radio until the 90s, and so, yeah, I'm glad to have 120 Minutes as my guide for music like this with MTV. But yeah, a lot of great songs on here. Very, it ranges from just quirky silliness to very more, morose type stuff to very heavy-handed stuff like Dear God. All of them with great little melodies going on. I'd never used the phrase Beatle-esque. A lot of people describe this as Beatle-esque. If there's definitely a Beatle-esque song on here, it's 1,000 Umbrellas. That would be the Eleanor Rigby on here, with it just laden with just violins. Great track on here. One of my favorites is Earn Enough for Us, the song that starts song 2. I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that, especially early on in their 20s or whatever, when they're just starting out in a relationship, just starting to climb the job ladder or whatever, trying to make more and more money, hopefully to script by to impress their partner. They don't want to lose their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever by not making enough money. Got to rake it in. Got to get that second job at night and all of that. So that's a pretty cool song. All of these, a lot of these songs on here really touch on parts of life that really don't pop up in a lot of other songs. The only really one I don't like at all is that's really Supergirl. I think that takes the quirkiness just like a couple steps too far. It's just kind of too goofy. But yeah, a lot of great songs on here. Another Satellite, the big day. I'm assuming talking about like the wedding or whatever coming up or whatever. So a lot of great stuff on here, ranging from happy-go-lucky type stuff to stuff like Dying, literally, the track Dying. So yeah, glad I finally got this. I had a recorded version of this for a while, but that I got off of somebody's CD when I was actually in college in the '90s. But glad to finally have the record of this. I never did get around to getting the CD, so it's been a long, long time since I've heard this album all the way through. I should have gotten this a lot sooner, but glad to finally have the vinyl of this. And I did not get a chance to check this out yet. I'm not familiar with this one from XTC. I'll be checking this out very, very soon. Oranges and Lemons. This is actually a double album, even though it's just a single jacket, no gatefold. But I want to hear this as well. So let me know in the comments if you've heard this one. Is this one better than Skylarking? Is it not as good? Is it just as good? Is it like that Replacements record? Is it totally different? Completely different sound? Is it similar? Let me know what to expect from this. And so, yeah, I didn't want to make the video extremely long because, like I said, this is basically part 4 of the tetralogy, if you will. And I know that each video gets fewer and fewer views. People less and less interested with each one of these that come on. So I didn't get a chance to check this out yet. Didn't want to make the video extremely long. And did not have a chance to check out these yet. No time yet for the 2 that I got from the Beat Farmers. I'll be listening to these at some point. Anyway, my name is Robert Fifth, and thank you so much for watching. Especially if you've watched all 4 parts of this video series where I've talked about the videos that I got from the guy at the storage unit, that I got from Craigslist, about $5 each. All these near mint or mint condition, some of the VG Plus ones. Some of them have the little, like a bad spine, like at the top where it's been like clawed or something. Maybe they had a cat incident similar to the one I had a couple of years ago where the cat decided that the records were a scratch pad. Good times. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I will talk to you again soon.